Welcome to Keystroke Live for Wednesday, September 26th. My name is Dave Hunsinger, and I am Director of Sales here at Specialized Business Solution. And the title is Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard, which people know as PCI DSS. I'm going to talk about that, kind of give you some thoughts on what's going on with it right now, how it applies to Keystroke, and if you've got any thoughts or ideas about it, it's certainly everybody's got an opinion about it. Some good, some bad. I think more bad than good. But this is Keystroke Live. It is every Wednesday, and we will not be having it next Wednesday because we will be having the Dealer Summit in Long Beach, California. So, payment security. Biggest thing is security. You can kind of, sometimes I feel like saying just throw out everything else, let's worry about security. That's what's important, is to making payments, data storage, procedure secure. You just got to think about it, and that's where a lot of this is just common sense, like lock your front door, like don't have an open Wi-Fi access point in your business, use passwords to log on to computers, have clerks clerk in individually. I always love giving the example. I had a user at an end user training session say, oh, we just all clerk in as clerk number one and it works great. Well, I told him about setting up clerks, and she's like, people are taking shorter lunches and they're around more now that they all have to clerk in and out, and I know when they got there in the morning when they didn't. So, it's like, well, duh, that kind of makes sense. If they know you're watching, they're going to be a little more responsive to doing what you expect. A lot of it's common sense. You're the dealer there to provide additional technology to help them and to help make them more secure. Remember, you're a team. A lot of times there can be a battle of, hey, you're the dealer, you make me secure, and then I'm going to forget about it. Well, that's not really how it works. I've heard the guys at PCI say, oh, well, payment security is a way of life, and yeah, it's kind of a day-to-day ongoing thing. You can set somebody up to be most secure, but they still have to do the practices, continue with the industry best practices to be secure. I don't feel it's so much about being certified or validated. It's about worrying about, hey, I don't want to be breached. I want to be secure. How can I set myself up to best avoid that? And it should be what the payment industry is thinking about. Now, in 2010, we, Specialized Business Solutions, PADSS, Payment Application Data Security Standard, validated the KeyPay application. That's KeyPay version 6.3, which you would use with Keystroke version 6.3 or Keystroke version 7.0. It was a huge and painful and, most importantly, extremely expensive undertaking to do that PCI PADSS validation. Did it improve our security? Well, yes, the KeyPay module was much more secure than Mercury.exe or how we were handling interfacing with third-party payment applications like PC Charge. Yes, that got much more secure, and that was important. Was it secure before? Yes, we never stored track 1 or 2 data. We encrypted everything. Okay, now we have a little bit stronger encryption, but both were very difficult to break. Now the PC Charge is the information is passed to PC Charge more securely, even though the previous version did meet PCI requirements, it is more secure now, and that's kind of what I boil it down to, is it's all about providing the most secure payment processing for customers. The big things in general with PCI that I'm going to talk about real quickly here: data transmission, data logging, data storage, and historical data storage. That's what Keystroke and KeyPay have to do with the payment card industry data security standard. And that takes up about 2 or 3 of their 12 points that we'll look at in the next couple of slides here. So there's a lot more to it than just this. So what's important with data transmission? Well, really now we've got a great option with the Magtech iPad that is end-to-end encryption, and they have improved the device than the first batch they let out. There is another one coming along in the next couple weeks that Mercury has teamed up with. So we will have another device that does end-to-end encryption, which is basically that card data is encrypted when you swipe it and not decrypted until it gets to the other end for the company that's actually doing the processing. There's data logging. You need to record not the credit card number, but when you're authorizing the transactions. That's a big point of PCI, is basically they want an audit trail. They want to be able to go back and say, this is what happened when. And so KeyPay does that for you. Data storage, we store things securely, we tokenize. That's a big word in the security industry, which basically means, hey, I'm substituting fake numbers for real numbers. So here's your actual number, and I'm going to keep the first 6 and the last 4, and everything else in between is just going to be a mishmash of meaningless numbers. That's tokenizing the data. And then historical data storage, which is something very important because it's even hard for me to track down because I'm a backup junkie. I back up every day. I back up to CDs. I send them home with my business partner Dana. I take some home. Well, you don't want electronic credit card data stored indefinitely. And so that's part of our PCI implementation guide, is that you need to go to those backups and purge out all the credit card numbers, especially from before they were using KeyPay. There's no reason to store them historically. I've asked the experts at Mercury, and they said, well, really there's no reason to even store them at all. And once the batch has been settled, you can't really do anything with that credit card number anyway. So there's varying opinions on that, but to be most secure, you can set up Keystroke to purge those credit card numbers immediately so nothing is ever saved. Now, a little bit about PCI, and I'm going to go through this quickly because I could spend a week talking about these, but there are some real important things about, there's the digital dozen, or the big 12 they have here, that's have a secure network with a firewall. They're big on don't use.
Dave, could you mute everybody?
Okay. Oh, sure. Let me.
Got some background noise there that's really good.
Okay. I'm still unmuted there. Good. And I will unmute you at the end for questions as well. You want the secure network. You don't want to use vendor-supplied defaults. I've heard of a couple of instances where people have logged on that you've got a password for your internet access, but somebody can log on to your switch and log on to the switch with the default username and password, go in there and say for your wireless connection, change the password to something they know, and then they can log on wirelessly to your switch and access your network and your data. So there's just some valid things that, and I know them all: admin, Netgear 1, administrator, password, admin, blank. There's each manufacturer has them a little bit different, but give me 8 or 10 guesses and I can figure out the default for any one, or you can just Google it too. the protect card hold data, that's what Keystroke does. Protect stored data, encrypts transmission, maintain vulnerability. It's basically saying have antivirus, anti-malware, anti-spyware software, keep it updated, maintain secure systems, log on and off, maybe keep your server in a locked room or a room separated so somebody can't get to it easily. Implement strong access. There's the unique passwords, changing passwords. I know it's a pain to have to do that. Remember, in Keystroke, by default, it's set up that if your security level is 6 or above, you don't have to have a strong password. So people that don't have access to certain functions don't have to have a password at all or don't have to have a strong password. It's people that have access to things like auditing function, editing payments, they need to have the strong password. So you can make that a little bit easier. They like you to monitor and test networks. That's a difficult thing to do. I think it costs you can pay between $200 and $800 to have somebody basically try to hack into your network, the vulnerability testing to do that. And then you have to have a policy that addresses it. I always like comparing this to fences, that if you have a policy, it's like fences, and then if your employees and people around you know those fences are there, that keeps them from trying to go to areas they shouldn't. So they know, hey, you've got a policy, you're watching this, you're checking this, you're recording this, and so that can prevent them from trying to cheat. It's just like if you have cash drawer compulsion or video monitoring, you let your clerks know you have that so that they say, hey, I don't want to steal out of the drawer because I know they can see me doing it. So that will prevent them from being tempted to do that. That's the basic PCI information. Now, there's a lot in the news. If you look at RSPA, the Retail System Providers Association, they have started a organization called PCI Wise that's kind of a alternative to PCI, saying that these are ridiculous requirements. It's difficult. Joe Finzio, the guy that runs RSPA, has been very vocal in saying, hey, these guys are just creating this industry and make this small organization is collecting huge fees and making a lot of money out of doing all of this without taking on a lot of responsibility. And they have the right goal in mind, is that what the goal is secure payments. The couple of things floating around out there now that are very big and applicable to all of us is, one is you hear a lot of talk of near-field communications and EMV, which is Eurocard, MasterCard, Visa. It's the standard they use in Europe. And yes, it's a more secure, it's a better standard. It would be great to implement into United States. We haven't done it. It's going to take time, money, and effort on your part, because part of the near-field communication EMV is you also hear it called chip and pin, and so in the card there's a chip embedded that you can wave next to one of these near-field communication devices, or you can insert it into a slot. It's not like a mag stripe. It's kind of a slot you stick one end of the card to that has the chip into it, and it reads that. So it will involve completely new technology. Now, with like the Merchant Warehouse Genius program, their device from Verifone that they'll be using will be able to handle the chip and pin and the near-field communication. They also want to do scanning so you can like scan coupons off of a smartphone and things like that. So there will be devices coming along, but it basically means replacing every device in the United States, plus issuing everybody a new card that's got the actual chip in it so that you can use chip and pin. These things are coming along. Yes, it would make it more secure. I'm not an expert. How I understand it is the encryption with that chip and pin, it basically creates almost like a different card number every time you use the card. So even if the data is compromised, they can't create a fake card. They can't use that number that they get again. So that's the big hurdle right now, is that people are stealing credit card data, creating fake cards, going out and making purchases with the fake cards, and that's how they're doing the fraudulent activity with the cards. Now, we had a gentleman from Coalfire a couple of years ago at the Dealer Summit, and he said, hey, the crooks are a lot smarter than us because the rewards are a lot bigger. And we don't know what's going to come down next on the pike on the way of fraudulent credit card activity. The big box vendors, they've been running into the service crew comes into a grocery store and replaces all the PIN pads with ones that siphon the number and the PIN number, and then they go, they get numbers for 2 weeks and then go empty out everybody's ATM accounts. Now, that's a big effort to earn that money, but their industry is so big and they've come up with these ideas on ways of doing things like that, that who knows what's going to come down next on the pike to do that. Is the EMV the be-all, end-all to prevent that? No, but it is a lot more secure technology than the mag stripe that we currently have on the back of the cards. I keep wanting to go back to what's important is secure payments, and that's making sure you know who's swiping, using end-to-end encryption if you can, locking the front door of the business, maintaining a policy, having a secure network. And we do have a wireless router on our network, but I turn it off, and if we need to use it, I turn it on for that day and then turn it off again. I just don't want to leave it, even though it is encrypted and web-enabled and all of that. I just don't want to leave it on all the time because I don't want to open up that security risk. I've got a couple of firewalls for incoming and outgoing internet connections. I've got a couple of different internet connections that we use for different things. I've just kind of set things up to try to be as secure as possible, try to put as many IPs in between where my internet connection comes in and where my data is stored. I can go on and on about PCI, but I kind of get the feeling that PCI may be not necessarily going away, but they've asked everyone to complete the SAQ, self-assessment questionnaires. I don't know how many of you have done it, but they're difficult. I've done a couple of them, and it's really no fun at all. A small business that's doing $1 million a year or $500,000 a year, it's a lot of effort and expense to get all that done and to maintain the vulnerability testing. I think it's important to train those merchants to know, hey, this is an ongoing thing. You want to be concerned about credit card security. You want to be watching what people are doing. You don't want people swiping a credit card an extra time, and that's a red flag if you ever go in anywhere and they swipe your card twice. Well, you should never have to swipe a card on 2 different devices. Hey, what are you doing with that? What's going on? Or one's in our corporate data and one's to approve it. Well, you don't need my credit card number for your corporate data. So there's that whole SAQ enterprise. Now, just recently, PCI in August has come out with what they call the QIR, Qualified Integrator and Reseller, that I don't see how that program's ever going to gain any traction. It ends up costing about $3,000. You have to go to one of their trainings. You have to pay them, and pay them again. And then they're saying, you need to do this. You need to report to us every installation. You need to give us, I have a document here. It's like a 6-page document for every installation you do that you have to give them, and then if you ever change anything, you have to update it, and it's just out of control. I can see doing that if you're putting in a Target store or something, but for doing a corner liquor store that's 500 square feet, it seems a little bit extreme. Like I say, I can go on and on about this, and I am going to open it up Oh, and I see something came up in, oh, I think I took care of the chat. So I'm going to unmute everybody. And if anybody's got any comments, questions, or experiences they want to pass along, that would be great. But like I say, you can hear me go on and on more next week as we talk about PCI at the Dealer Summit as well. So any questions? Is anybody out there? I know we've got a little background noise going.
Oh, they all say they're still connected.
Yeah, I'm still here. I just don't have any questions.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure I wasn't talking to thin air there. So, but feel free if anything comes up or you have any questions, give me a call anytime. I am pretty easy to get a hold of. Not so much this week or next week, but pretty easy in general. Again, next week we don't have any Keystroke live, so don't tune in at 10 o'clock. And thank you for attending.